Well, my name is Earlene Mac Belcher, and I am known now as Queen Cookie. And I'm just going to sit here and basically talk about the trip that we're getting ready to take. It's a 4-state road trip. And the theme of this road trip is sisters, bonding, and healing. I lost my grandson 25 years young on February the 18th, 2017. What a difficult day that was. I can remember it like it happened yesterday. Had went out walking that morning. Was bragging like I'd like to do, doing live Facebook, letting everybody know that I was exercising because I'm a type 2 diabetic. So I try to share my story with my diabetes on social media. So I was out doing that morning. It must have been about 10 o'clock in February. It was about 50 degrees out. Came home, took a shower, went shopping because I had just won a trip to Disney World through the TV program The View, the talk show. So I was going out to pick up a few things for my trip and t-shirts, what have you, so that we could travel in them. So on my way back home, I was pulling into my driveway, and before I could even get into the garage, my phone rung in the car. And it was somebody informing me, a family member from New Orleans, because my grandson lived in Texas, was informing me that my grandson had died, had taken his life. Oh my God. Oh my God. I know my neighborhood heard me scream. I wailed. I jumped out of the car. My husband was in the house. He came a-running. What's wrong? And I told him what happened. He said, are you sure about that? Just don't take somebody's word over the phone. I said, I don't think they would call and tell me that, my grandson had died. I guess someone had seen it on Facebook. So I'm laying on the garage floor. I could not even get into the house. I'm just wailing on the floor. And while I was down there, I decided to go on his Facebook page. And there I saw all the condolences. Rest in peace, AJANE. Let me back up and let you know what his name is. His name is AJANE Xavier Jamal Burt. Such a pretty name. He was going to be named Xavier Jamal, but his mother found this name on a TV program somewhere, AJANE. And she asked me, do you like that name? I said, I love it. So she put that as the first name, very unusual. So anyway, when I went on his Facebook page, there are Facebook friends saying, rest in peace, AJANE. I can't believe it. I'm shocked. Rest in peace, rest in peace. And so I have a brother that's, he's retired from law enforcement. So I called him because he has connections, and I told him what had happened. And he said that I'll find that out for you, sis, and get back to you. So within about 15, maybe 20 minutes, he called me back and he said, AJANE is in a morgue in San Antonio, Texas. Oh my God. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be told that. But my grandson, bless his heart, his mother took her life at 31. And she was she left 5 children from the ages of 2 months, she just had a baby, until his age, which was 12. And my grandson never bounced back from that. His mother was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And she was a domestic violence aggressor. And he had to live with that, with his siblings. And I just think it got down. It was in his DNA, some of it. And he just couldn't bounce back from his mother taking her life. And out of all 5 children, he was the only one that went into foster care. The other 4 were taken by family members, and I think that was devastating to him. And I suffered with guilt behind it because after the fact, I thought maybe I could have made a difference in this baby's life had me and my husband taken him. And maybe it's a selfish thought, but it's a thought. We had just bought the home that we are living in now, which is in a senior citizens community, and there are no children or teenagers that live here. And I didn't want to go against the grain and the rules. I guess I could have, but I didn't want to be the one to do it, being that we were like the second African Americans that had moved in this community. And you can know, I have a feel of what prejudice is like. because, during my lifetime, when African Americans moved into a neighborhood, other ethnic groups would say, there goes the neighborhood. And I just didn't want that to be said about us. So I didn't take him. Whether it was selfish or not, I don't know. Probably was. But at the time, I did the best that I could do. And I supported him from afar. I've been in this baby's life ever since he was born. Taking care of him, helping his mother out with school clothes. Always. Never missed his birthday until 2 months before he died. The Christmas of 2016, I didn't get him a gift because I was in the tough love stage with him at that point. And normally at Christmas, when our grandchildren turn 18, we don't buy them gifts anymore. It's time to look out for Granny and Grandpa. So, but being the fact that he had been incarcerated for 3.5 years due to a domestic violence charge that was put on him, I just kept going past the age of 18 with him only. But that Christmas I didn't get him anything because I wanted him to change his life. He had started to get into drugs and alcohol as a teenager. After his mother passed away, I found out that he was doing drugs and alcohol, and I would watch him on live Facebooks over drink and do drugs on live Facebook. And so I always felt, during that time, the last, say, year of his life, I was watching him basically self-destruct. He had a lot of emotional pain, depression. And I tried to get him to seek help. I really did. I did a lot from afar. I even tried to get him to move to Ohio from Texas. But that isn't what he wanted because I guess he had made a friend base in Texas. So I did what I could. One of my regrets is when he was 12 years young, he came out of foster care. I got him out of foster care and I brought him to Ohio, to our home, for about 6 to 8 weeks during the summertime. And I could tell he had some emotional problems because that was a year after his mother had passed. And there was some defiance there, and I tried to work with it, but it was difficult for me going on 60 at the time. But I turned around and I sent that baby back to Texas to his foster care. And after he passed, I had regrets of that. I said, now why did I get him out of foster care to come be with us for the summer, 6 to 8 weeks, and then turn around and send him back to foster care? Why couldn't I have just kept that baby here? This is some of that shoulda, coulda, wish I coulda done more to save his life. But my husband is a witness that I did everything that I could. I mean, I sent that baby boxes and boxes of clothes. When he got his first apartment, I furnished his apartment with towels, sheets, things for his apartment, always sending him money. Just tried to do the best I could without him living with me because I was retired and I didn't want the responsibility of raising my grandson. I thought that his living parent should have taken that responsibility, and I didn't want to take that away from his living parent, which is my son, his father. So I didn't do it, and I have been going to counseling. Matter of fact, I was in counseling even before he passed, not about him, about some other issues that I had. And I had just stopped counseling probably about a month before he passed. But then after he passed, I started going back to counseling, and I just ended it probably about 4 months ago. And this is 2018 now. And I am attending a group called Compassionate Friends. This is a group of people, their parents and grandparents of they have lost their children and their grandchildren due to illness, due to murder. I'm the only one that have lost one to suicide. And I'm scheduled this month to attend a suicide group because I just like to get the perspective of others who have gone through what I have gone through. Nobody understands this journey unless you have gone through it. Now, people can sympathize with you, but they cannot empathize with you unless they have gone through this journey. And I've lost friends behind it. I mean, people have said insensitive things. I had a person tell me, a good friend of mine tell me, 2 weeks after I lost my grandson, she's very religious, and she said, do you know the Bible says that when you commit suicide, you go to hell? Well, I told her where she could put that Bible because it was inappropriate to say that to me 2 weeks into my grief. I had someone else, another very good friend of mine, had been friends about 45 years, tell me that if I keep talking about my grandson, I would damage my heart. Now, she's into a lot of health things and things like that, so I'm assuming she meant literally damage. And that was a week after I lost my grandson. At that point, I did not care about damaging my heart. Matter of fact, at that point, I was probably becoming suicidal myself because I felt like I had invested so much into this baby. How could he leave thinking that he wasn't loved or I didn't love him? Or better still, at the top of the totem pole, he didn't love himself. So I dealt with all of that for months and months, and I tell you, it was a journey. I cried and I cried because death is hard on anybody. But when you lose a loved one, especially a grandchild at the age of 25 to suicide, that's doubly tough because I've never gone through that before. And I don't know how to react to a suicide. So I have been trying to get help with talking to others. Like I said, I'm going to a suicide group coming up because I want to hear the perspective from those that have lost due to suicide, not just from illness or murder or accidental. I want to hear the perspective from the suicide aspect of death. So my husband is very supportive of me. He didn't know how to support me in the beginning because men and women, we grieve different. It's almost like he didn't know how to bring my grandson up because actually his step-grandson, but he treated him like it was his blood grandson. He didn't know how to bring the death up without upsetting me. He felt like to bring AJANE's name up would cause me to cry or go into this, depression or sadness or whatever. So he didn't talk about AJANE a lot in the beginning. But then he started going to a support group to learn how to deal with the aspects of grief. And he also read this book called A Broken Heart, How to Deal with a Broken Heart When You Lose a Loved One. And I might be paraphrasing that book. And after he read the book, he had a better insight on how to deal with death when you're dealing with a spouse that have lost a loved one. And he gave me that book also to read. It was very helpful. A lot of things that I was thinking about how others were thinking and how others was treating me. I wasn't the only one. Others in the book was experiencing the same thing. And the book talked about suicide. So that was very helpful. Support groups have been very helpful. Talking to close-knit friends. I have a group of ladies. We call ourselves the Sisters. Matter of fact, these ladies are accompanying me to Texas on my journey to visit the headstone of my grandson. I also want to visit the place where he took his life, where he lived, because there was a little old man on the scene. And also there was a young lady on the scene that he was seeing at the time. She witnessed all of this. And they tried to save his life, but they couldn't do it. It was just too much damage done. He died by hanging. So it was too much damage done and they couldn't. But I want to go by the apartment, see where he stayed. I want to thank the little old man that tried to save his life that didn't have enough strength to cut the rope. I want to thank him for trying. I'm also, while in San Antonio, I'm going to visit the places where he worked, his employers. I've already contacted them. And I want to be in the essence of my grandson. There's a nightclub that he used to go to just about every night to drink and to party after work, and he would do live Facebooks in this nightclub, and I would watch his videos as he was doing them. And I want to visit that nightclub to meet some of the patrons there and some of the workers there that knew him and had fond memories of my grandson. I'm going to also visit the San Antonio Police Department. They were the ones that sent me the body cam, the police body cam, which I thought would be hard for me to watch as the police approached my grandson in his state. But I watched it. I did share some tears later. But they tried to save his life too, but it was too late. So the young lady that sent me the dash cam, she was so compassionate and loving to me on the phone in explaining what I was going to see and what I was going to hear on the police body dash cam. I want to go thank her too because of her compassion and her loving spirit towards me. I told her, I said, you have the right job, baby, because you are so compassionate with dealing with people when it comes to death, because that's the department she works in. It's the deaf department, for lack of a better term. So, and then we're going to drive 4 hours to San Antonio, and we're going to have like a little memorial remembrance of my grandson at his grave site, where most of his ashes are buried. I do have a vial of his ashes with me, but most of them are in his mother's grave, and I've never seen the headstone that I had laid on his birthday last year, which was August the 14th. So I want to go visit the headstone and make sure everything's to my liking, and then visit some family members. There's some family down there that I want to visit also, and before we start heading back home. So I am so grateful to my girlfriends, my sisters. It's going to be 7 of us in the car. And I'm so grateful that they want to take this journey, because when it happened so abruptly. I had to get myself together so quick and fast and jet down to San Antonio to take care of that business. They wasn't able to attend with me, but I made mention to my sister Diane that I wanted to do that. And she said, Queen, we'll do that with you. I'll see if the sisters will join up with me, because she said she was going to go, and see if they would like to join us. So we're all taking this 4-state road trip in September of 2018 this year, and I look forward to it. So that's some of the story of the trip. We're not only just visiting San Antonio, but we're going to some other museums along the way. There's another sister that will be in the car. She lost her grandson about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago, and she's healing also. And there's other aspects of healing other than losing a loved one. You know, there's some, you know, other issues that people are experiencing that will be in the car. Illness, trying to keep ourselves up as older women, psychologically and mentally. And I also want to show the world how women of 60 plus, how they get along in a loving fashion. It's not all about this cussing and fussing and throwing drinks in people's faces and reality shows that show women in a bad light. We're all 60 plus, and we're very loving women. We're very supportive, and we want the world to know that you can love, you can be decent to each other without, you know, holding grudges and being mad and having issues with each other and not speaking and not supporting. So I want to show that I have a support group of women that love me and that I love them. There's one young lady in the group. Her name is Brenda. We have been friends 60 years. Can you believe that? And we've never had a major falling out. I mean, as teenagers, you know how you do that little squabbling or whatever. We might have done something like that, but nothing major. So I'm at the state in my life where, you know, I try not to let anything fester, because it's not good for my health. And I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I try to keep my health on board. I try to keep going. I exercise 3 to 6 days a week, and I watch my portion sizes because I'm a diabetic without medication. So to go through this stress of death could have really affected my diabetes. Oh my God. My numbers might have been up during that time of my grandson's loss. But since I have gotten back on the track, and I'm one day at a time, that's all I can do. So I just wanted to share my story to let you know what this trip that we're taking is about, what my grandson was about, a very loving young man. He would give you the shirt off of his back. I eulogized him in San Antonio, Texas for his funeral. And to hear the people say that he was very kind, he just had some issues, which we all have. I mean, very kind young man. He would give people money. He had a sizable amount of money when he left prison, and he gave it just about all of it away. Of course, he partied a lot of it, but a very kind young man. And I tell you, I miss and I love this man. I love my grandson. It's sort of hard for me to say man because he's just like my baby to me. I raised him. I picked up the slack for him. When he thought nobody else cared, I was there for him, especially after his mother passed. So I will always miss this baby. And I don't know if this t-shirt up here can be seen, but he says on this t-shirt, "Only God can judge me." Now, I don't know what was going on in his mind at that point. I sometimes think he had a premonition that he wasn't going to be here long because of his mother's passing. I think she left an imprint in his mind that when things get difficult in life, the easy way out is to take your life. Well, normally when things get difficult, it's only a temporary problem. But he used a permanent solution to fix it. And he had an addiction. People don't want to admit that. He was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And the way I understand through going through the program with my husband is that there's only 3 things that an addiction will lead you to. It will lead you to prison, insanity, or death. And my grandson experienced all 3 things. He experienced insanity. You can call it depression. He experienced prison, and the finale was death. So I tried to incorporate most of his story in my storytelling about him. And I'm still recovering this, even though it's been at this point coming up on 18 months since his death. A day doesn't go by that I don't think of him. Now, I'm not into the throes and the rawness of crying every day, all day. Sometimes I couldn't get out of the bed because of my grief. Sometimes I felt like taking my life because I wanted to go where he was to let him know that I loved him, because I didn't get a chance to say that before he left. But I'm working on it one day at a time. So I hope you have enjoyed this story. And along our journey on this 4-state road trip, I'll probably be coming up with other things about him that I probably failed to mention this time. But hopefully we'll pick it up at a later date. So thank you for listening. I've enjoyed telling and talking about my grandson and also about myself. One day I'm going to write a book. Matter of fact, I've already started the process because I'm also a stand-up comedian. And had it not been for my comedy, I don't know if I would have made it. Because about 3 months after his passing, I had a show to do at the Apollo Theater in New York. And I didn't think I could get through that show. I thought I had to cancel that out because I wasn't laughing and I didn't feel like making others laugh. But I got through the show, had a standing ovation, and I was able to get through that show. And had it not been for comedy in my life, and I didn't start that till 63 years young, I just turned 69 this year, August the 5th. Had it not been for comedy, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have been a lot worse off emotionally and mentally. So, AJANE Xavier Jamal Burt. He was born October 14th, 1991. And he left this planet on February the 18th, 2017. That's my baby, AJANE.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to document this 8-day road trip that we're taking. This trip is just to help us to be awakened and transform in some areas of our lives for healing, for vulnerability, for joy, for peace. Oh, my ride is coming. Oh, hi, Lady J. I send you lots of love and peace.
I am at the Out of Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk today in honor of my grandson, who was 25 years young. His name is AJANE, affectionately known as AJ Xavier Jamal Burt. He took his life on February the 18th, 2017 in San Antonio, Texas. I traveled recently to the spot where he took his life. I also went to Santa Rosa, where his headstone was laid that I never seen, and I got a chance to see his headstone in honor of him. So I'm honoring him today at this suicide prevention walk. I love and I miss my grandson AJ so very much, and I wish he was here today to have a better life. I know his life would have gotten better had he stayed around. There's always tomorrow, no matter what you're going through. It's only temporary. Please don't do a permanent solution for a temporary problem. You just don't realize how this thing called suicide affects so many people in life until you start meeting others that have gone through the same thing that you are going through and are feeling the same thing that you are feeling. There's like tons of people out here that this thing called suicide has affected, and we're all are walking in each other's shoes, and I feel everybody's heart out here today. I feel everybody's heart.
Balloons, everybody, you can hold them up. They are gone but not forgotten. Please let those balloons go.
There are people out here from all walks of life. I never thought, as a stand-up comedian, where I make others laugh, that on February the 18th, 2017, my grandson would make me cry, and I had nothing to laugh about. I had nothing to laugh about. And I had a show to do. And I couldn't pull up funny, although I did because I put on a mask, but my heart was broken. My heart was broken. While people from all walks of life are walking. Suicide has no race, no political affiliation, no gender affiliation. Suicide is what it is. You could be the most wealthiest person or the poorest person on the planet, but you could be affected by suicide. It doesn't discriminate. I took a trip this past September 4th, 2018 to San Antonio, Texas to honor my grandson, AJANE, affectionately known as AJ, Xavier Jamal Burt. I was able to visit San Antonio and visit the apartment where he stayed and where he took his life on February the 18th, 2017. I had the opportunity to meet the older gentleman that tried to save my grandson's life, but he was too frail to cut him down from the rope. He took his life by means of hanging, and I was able to release some of the guilt I felt from the gentleman because he wasn't able to save my grandson's life. And while there, I had a girlfriend that accompanied me on the trip that has a gift of releasing spirits that's still on the scene of where people have passed away. So we released my grandson's spirit back into the universe, into the arms of our ancestors. And that was very emotional for me. I was also able to walk around the house that he lived in, and I was able to walk on the balcony where he took his life and touch the rails and just be in his essence while I was in San Antonio. It was very emotional for me, but I was able to do that in honor of my grandson. While in San Antonio, I also visited the restaurant where my grandson worked, and I had taken testimonials of those who knew him and spoke fondly of my grandson. He was the life of the party. He had a big smile. He was so handsome to me. he would give you the shirt off of his bag. And a lot of people in San Antonio that work with him, they gave testimonials of my grandson like that.
My name's Thomas. I knew AJ. I met him over here at Capital Bay. Used to work with him over here. Good kid, you know, good kid. What matters, you know, he's always wanted to help everybody out. You know, it's a sad thing what happened to him, you know. But yeah, I knew him here. We used to hang out at the Medeluna bar, you know, have a couple beers every time we get off work. I'd always see him and, you know, talk to him here and there. He's a good kid. He's a real good kid.
Hi, I'm Erica, and AJ was a sweetheart when I worked with him. I remember him being a hard worker. He's quiet, but sweet. Never gave attitude, was never mean. Always seemed like a happy person, always in a good mood. Yeah, I wish I would have really got to know him. But he's still here, he's still present, and I was blessed to at least to know him and work with him the little time that I did.
Yeah, he was good people. Yeah, he was my friend, and I really appreciated his friendship, you know. And at least he's in a better place, you know. He couldn't be in a better place, so rest in peace, you know.
All right, thank you so much, baby.
Alright, my name's Mary. I'm a head server / head trainer here. I knew AJ. He was a good guy. He was a hard worker. He loved his people. If you were with him, he'd give you the shirt off his back. He liked to celebrate life. He was a good person. If you needed anything, he was right there for you.
We left San Antonio and traveled 3.5 hours to Santa Rosa, Texas, where my grandson is buried with his mother. His mother, at 31 years young, also took her life and left 5 children, my grandson being the oldest, down to 2 months was her youngest baby. AJANE, Xavier, Jamal, Burt. Born October 14th, 1991. Passed February the 18th, 2017. I made it, you guys. I made it. I can't believe it's been almost 19 months that we laid our baby to rest. He is at peace. If you can see, he lays right below his mom, Johanna Lee Schnurr's grave, always in our hearts. AJ is forever in our hearts.
We want to give him some flowers.
Oh, most definitely. Oh, most definitely.
And representing really to let you know that whatever blood you shed and what you felt like you needed to, this red represents the blossoming of a beautiful flower.
Beautiful.
Represents you, the love that we all have for you and for your grandmother, and you're here just to celebrate your ascension.
Beautiful, beautiful,
So
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we should put them in the vase.
Can we put them in the vase?
Because it'll...
Yeah, the vase, yeah.
I think it'll stay better without blowing away.
One for Pam.
Can you hold this, Mary Jane?
One for me, one for Pam here. And then if you guys put yours on there. And this one is from Nicole. One for yours.
Hey, how you doing?
This is from Diane. This is from me, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. Hi, young lady.
Hello.
This young man, his name is Isaac. I mean, you can tell him who you are to AJ.
Yeah.
You like, just look right in there.
Oh, okay. Well, AJ's a brother of mine. We grew up together and, man, we've been through everything together, so we broke off after a few years just because he moved and I moved, but that never changed. We came out together. We put it like that. But that's my brother. And sucks where it ended up, but I know he up in heaven looking down, you know?
I don't know if you ever
went into San Antonio and hung out with him at this place called the Media Luna and Dillo's. It was 2 clubs.
I know it's sad because he would always call me and we'd be FaceTiming all the time.
Yeah.
But I never got to go out there. I was always like work.
Yeah, but we went there last night.
I saw that.
And I wanted to be in his essence. You know, AJ used to always be having that camera up here, just a singing and posing and thing with his fine self.
Yeah.
So we went there and I interviewed about 3 of his friends
I saw that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
So you know what they said.
Yeah.
So anyway, they were like a family. They called themselves the River Rats. And they were like a family and they embraced him and took him in.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he just had this feeling that his family really didn't care for him, but he had a family down there. And I was so grateful to those young people down there that took him in like that.
Yeah.
I'm Daniel Rivera, the owner of Media Luna. One of the many places that AJ used to come to downtown. Actually, he was here most of the time. Good friends with all of us, different people down here, and he was what we call the river rat. We're all river rats. If you work downtown, you're a river rat, and my bar is actually it's known and it's pretty much all full of river rats. And anytime we had a problem or anything, you know, we used to come together and help each other out. And AJ had a little bit of a tough time, you know, adjusting down here, but we all helped him out. We try to do the best as we can for each other. But he always had a smile. He was optimistic about things. The last day I saw him was the day a few hours before his tragedy, and I didn't have a bartender that day, and I was opening up the bar, and what's it called? I asked him, I was like, "What's wrong with you?" And he goes, I went to jail last night. And I go, "What happened?" And honestly, I can't remember exactly the story that happened, but I was like, "Don't even worry about it." He goes, "I don't want to get in trouble anymore. I don't want to go back there." I was like, "Well, tomorrow's a better day." He had just got paid that day. He asked me to cash his check, but I didn't have enough money in the door, and he went to go cash his check. And I remember the girl he was dating at the time. He goes, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go buy her." He bought her a piece of jewelry or something, I think a necklace or something like that. And he came back, had a couple of hypnotic drinks. That was what he drank at the time, and he was like, "I'm just waiting for my girlfriend, this and that. You know, they told me not to come to work because I haven't had any sleep." I was like, "Well, go get some sleep, bro." And this and that. And he goes, I don't know what the issue was, but he was like, "I'm just trying to get home." I was like, "Well, go get home." I was like, "You look like crap. I'll see you tomorrow night." I told him like that, and he was like, all right, I'll see you later. I remember he tipped me $20 that day, and then around late night that night, we got all these Facebook messages that he had passed, and like everybody, like from one of his good friends that comes to the bar, Beto Mendoza, was here. He's like, "You hear? You hear?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I just heard." So some of the people from here from the bar went down to his funeral, and he was one of us. He was a river rat. We're all river rats, and he was a special one. He was the life of the party. I'm not gonna lie, and it's funny because I'll be honest with you. One time there was a fight out here, and he saw the guy outnumbered. They didn't know the guy, and he jumped in for the guy. And I was like, "What are you doing? Do you know him?" And he goes, I remember he was like, no, but it's not fair. It's not fair. That's fucked up. It's not fair. And I told him, I was like, "Dude, you're gonna get in trouble." He's like, "Nah, I don't care. It wasn't fair." And the way he looked at it is like, hey, you know, I guess he was a very caring individual. That's all I got to say about him. Not because he's gone or anything, but because it's the truth, you know. Every now and then, when I'm making my posts to advertise for my bar, I see him on my Facebook, and I'm like, man. Sometimes I'm like, I try to be careful not to tag him in it because I don't want to offend anybody in the family from us tagging him for his advertisement. But he was on top of my friend list because he was AJ, slick, you know, and you know, it was kind of hard to just pass him by and not see him, you know. Anyways, that's all we remember. I remember AJ down here. We all remember. For a lot of different ways and reasons, and you know, that's pretty much all I got.
Thank you so much. Anytime. In the back of my mind, I sort of always figured for 13 years that my grandson would possibly do that, take his life, because his mother had left an imprint on him of doing that. But for 13 years, I tried to keep my grandson uplifted and encouraged. And in my heart, I know that if it wasn't for me keeping him going, he probably would have taken his life at a younger age rather than 25. He was the only one of his 5 siblings that went into foster care, and he had to deal with his mother's death in foster care, which I do believe caused him to go into depression, and he just couldn't shake it. He just couldn't shake it. Unfortunately, he served 3.5 years in prison because his pain led him to do something that was against the law. And he served 3.5 years, and when he came out, he struggled with life because now he's a felon. But he always found a job. He always, because he knew if he didn't work, he couldn't eat. He broke parole violations on a couple incidents, and 2 days before he passed away, he had broke his parole violations with a DUI. And he decided 2 days before he passed, I believe, to take his life rather than go back to prison, because I don't know what went on in prison. I have some testimonials that he had a hard time there, that things were done to him that are done to some in prison, and he just didn't want to face that again. So he decided on February the 18th that this life was no longer worth living. And you know, I always thought that he was doing a permanent solution to a temporary problem, that had he just hung around a little longer and made a change, he would have had to make a change with his life. He would have made it, because you also throw in alcohol and drug addiction on top of depression, which I think was a great cause in causing him to take his life.
You go through so many emotions when you have a loved one who takes their own life.
Oh yeah, because he was struggling. He had I watch photo albums of my grandson. I look at them because I had started a photo album when he was born, and I was going to present it to him. Yeah. You know, when the next time I seen him, because he lived in San Antonio, and I could see in the pictures he was a happy baby. All the pictures of him as an infant and a toddler and growing up to be about maybe 10 years old, he had a happy countenance about him. But at 12, when his mother took her life, you could see all the pictures after that were sad. It was a struggle to smile, but he had a beautiful smile. He was so darn handsome. Oh, so darn handsome. And he had a beautiful smile, and in talking with the people in San Antonio when I went there a month ago, all of them said he had the biggest smile. He would give you the shirt off his back. He was happy-go-lucky. He would be in the clubs, and I would watch him on live Facebook. He would be videoing himself, and you know, you just didn't know. Although I knew
they're good at hiding it.
Yeah.
They're good at keeping it in.
Yeah.
I mean, the people with this, my husband maintained a job. We had babies. I mean, I always say he was the happiest when he did it. I thought he was at the happiest I'd ever seen him. So to have that happen is a big surprise. So there's something behind the smiles that they hide, that's part of the walk, is to help. Hey, no, let's talk.
Right. Now, you said you found your husband. So you suffered from post-traumatic syndrome?
Post-traumatic stress.
Stress, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was hard for me to sleep at night. I had Hank, my youngest, was 3.5 months old. So he was still getting up throughout the night, and I suffered I couldn't even go downstairs to make him a bottle in the middle of the night because I was scared. I mean, that post-traumatic, my brain went through a trauma.
Right.
So not only am I grieving and taking care, trying to pick up pieces, but you struggle through all of that too. So everyone has a story.
Yeah, being out here, just being out here today, it was just in my heart that I need to do something in honor of my grandson to help others.
Absolutely.
So that's what I plan to do.
And you know, Jen has we've always told the kids, and she's the first to say it, so I had to credit her. Us joining the committee and us helping on this walk, is we're trying to do something positive out of something so negative.
Yeah, that's a great This is giving me a purpose. Possibly talking to young people in schools, juvenile centers, possibly jails and or prisons. Because in being around others that have gone through what I'm going through, I just can't sit on my laurels, I feel. It's like I need to find a purpose for my grandson taking his life. A purpose that will help others on their life journey, that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So, I don't know. I'm milling that over in my mind right now, that there's more that I can do in order to honor my grandson, AJANE's life.
Now, the first time this year is Out of the Darkness Walk. My name is Eric Chase. My 5th year, fortunate enough for Rachel to keep asking me to come out to host this walk.
I've made up my mind over and over. Keep pressing rewind, but I'm getting older. Tried every door, don't know who I'm looking for. And I've made up my mind over and over. I can't be everything you want me to be. I can't be everything you want me to be. Finally, I can see the light through the leaves, but it's all gone. But it's all gone. What comes from the ground now is returning.
I want you to hear something. Some things, I can't explain it. I just finished a video telling you guys about me working out. And when I was getting ready to stop, this is the message that I can't explain that's on my phone. I don't know how to get it on there, how to pull it up rather. But what I did was I hit the rewind button, because it did it one other time before, but I want you to hear it. Please take a listen. This is amazing. I just got back yesterday from visiting his gravesite.
Hey, Grandma, you called. I was working, so I'm about to get off. I'm just calling you back. You want to talk, whatever, let me know. We'll call back.